Fame is a spotlight, but for LGBTQ+ celebrities, that spotlight often burns twice as hot. Behind the red carpets and magazine covers lie stories the tabloids only scratched the surface of, scandals that didn't just shake careers, but tested identities, dignity, and survival itself. From public breakdowns and legal chaos to media takedowns and internet witch hunts, these 5 queer stars stood at the edge of ruin, and some nearly lost it all. But what happened next? That's where the real story begins. In today's episode, Rainbow Spotlight dives into the messy, raw, and deeply human moments that almost destroyed these LGBTQ+ icons, but ultimately reshaped how the world saw them. Buckle up. This isn't the glossy version of fame. These are the scandals that nearly destroyed careers, reputations, and lives. But instead of disappearing, these stars turned the spotlight back on their terms. They didn't just survive, they rewrote the story. And now we're pulling back the curtain on the first Untold chapter. Ready? The golden boy who refused to stay silent, Brandon Flynn. At first glance, Brandon Flynn was Hollywood's dream. Charming, handsome, and the breakout star of the Netflix phenomenon 13 Reasons Why. His role as Justin Foley launched him into global fame almost overnight. With his boy-next-door looks and magnetic screen presence, he quickly became a Gen Z heartthrob. But behind the scenes, Brandon was battling a storm, one that didn't start with his talent, but with who he was off-screen. Brandon came out as gay in a deeply personal Instagram post in 2017, sparked by the Australian marriage equality vote. He didn't name-drop or make a spectacle. He just wrote from the heart. "I am sick of this straight versus gay thing," he said. "I am sick of the hypocrisy we all live in." Fans applauded his courage, but the media, they pounced. Suddenly, Brandon wasn't just an actor. He was a symbol, a gay actor. Headlines began to define him by his sexuality rather than his performances. Casting agents hesitated. Rumors swirled that he was being typecast or overlooked for leading man roles. As his relationship with singer Sam Smith went public, tabloid attention grew even more vicious. Every outfit, every quote, every public appearance was dissected and twisted. Then came the breakup. After his split from Sam Smith, Brandon's personal life was thrust into an unforgiving spotlight. Online trolls accused him of riding fame coattails. The same public that had once celebrated him now questioned his authenticity. For a rising actor, it was the kind of overexposure that could derail a career entirely. But Brandon Flynn didn't disappear. Instead, he doubled down on his truth, his talent, and his voice. He took on roles that challenged stereotypes, choosing characters with emotional complexity and depth. In Ratched, he proved he could go dark, twisted, and unforgettable. On stage and screen, he showed a fearlessness that few actors his age dared to channel. He also became one of the most vocal young advocates for mental health, queer rights, and self-acceptance in Hollywood. He didn't let the press define him. He reclaimed his narrative by refusing to fit into anyone's box. Straight, gay, villain, heartthrob, victim. He was simply Brandon. In an industry that still struggles to separate private life from professional merit, Brandon's resilience became his greatest weapon. Today, he stands as a symbol of quiet rebellion, the boy who wouldn't let a scandal steal his spotlight. Instead of hiding from it, he used it as fuel. Drop a one if you believe that sometimes the bravest move is simply not backing down. The fall from grace heard around the world. Kevin Spacey. Once hailed as one of the greatest actors of his generation, Kevin Spacey was Hollywood royalty. With 2 Academy Awards, a string of legendary performances in films like American Beauty, The Usual Suspects, and his iconic role in House of Cards, Spacey had it all: power, prestige, and a near-mythic presence on screen. But in 2017, that legacy came crashing down. It began with one accusation. Actor Anthony Rapp alleged that Spacey had made sexual advances toward him when he was just 14 years old. The revelation was shocking. But what made it even more explosive was Spacey's response. Instead of directly addressing the allegation, he issued a statement that doubled as a coming-out announcement. "I choose now to live as a gay man," he wrote, attempting to deflect the growing firestorm with a pivot to identity. The backlash was immediate and intense. LGBTQ+ advocates slammed him for framing his coming out as a distraction from the allegation. It was seen as weaponizing queerness, a tactic that not only failed, but also enraged a community already battling stigma. Hollywood responded swiftly. Netflix dropped him from House of Cards, film projects evaporated, and his public image imploded overnight. More accusations followed. Spacey became the face of a global reckoning in entertainment, a cautionary tale in the Me Too era. For years, he disappeared from public life, issuing only cryptic holiday videos in character as Frank Underwood, further blurring the lines between performance and reality. Each video drew millions of views and a mix of curiosity and disbelief. But here's the twist. Despite everything, Spacey has never been convicted of a crime. In courtrooms, many of the cases have been dismissed or dropped. Legally, he's not guilty. Publicly, he remains radioactive. So how does someone once so revered become so reviled? And can a fall this steep ever be reversed? For many, Kevin Spacey represents the dark complexity of fame, power, and queerness. His legacy is tangled, not just in legal controversy, but in the way he distorted a moment of accountability into a personal narrative. And yet, his story is far from over. Some fans still believe in his genius. Others will never forgive him. His name still sparks debate in every corner of film culture. In a way, Spacey's scandal didn't just shake one career. It challenged an entire industry to reckon with who gets to survive controversy, who gets redemption, and who writes the ending. Drop a 2 if you think power without accountability is the real danger in Hollywood. Colton Underwood. From bachelor heartthrob to controversial coming out. To much of America, Colton Underwood was the perfect man. A former NFL player turned reality TV sweetheart. He was the star of The Bachelor. Handsome, wholesome, and most notably, a self-proclaimed virgin looking for love with the right woman. His season in 2019 was one of the franchise's most hyped. But what unfolded behind the scenes was far more complicated than a fairy tale romance. After the cameras stopped rolling, Colton's image started to unravel. In 2020, his relationship with winner Cassie Randolph ended, publicly and painfully. Cassie filed a restraining order, accusing him of stalking her, planting a tracking device on her car, and sending disturbing text messages. For fans, it was a shocking reversal. The golden boy of reality dating now painted as a manipulative ex. The restraining order was later dropped, but the damage to his reputation was undeniable. Then came another twist. In 2021, Colton sat down for a highly publicized interview on Good Morning America and came out as gay. "I've hated myself for a long time," he confessed. "I'm gay. I came to terms with that earlier this year and have been processing it." The interview was emotional, raw, and for some redemptive, but not everyone was ready to forgive. Critics accused Colton of using his coming out to rehab his image after the scandal. LGBTQ+ advocates questioned the decision to reward him with a Netflix docuseries, Coming Out Colton, so soon after the accusations of harassment. Many felt it sent the wrong message, that redemption could be rushed, packaged, and monetized. The backlash was sharp, but so was the support. Some praised his courage, especially given the conservative, hyper-masculine spaces he came from: pro football, reality TV, and Christian Midwestern culture. For closeted men in those worlds, Colton's visibility meant something. He wasn't the perfect role model, but maybe he didn't have to be. Today, Colton is married to political strategist Jordan C. Brown and speaks openly about his journey towards self-acceptance, therapy, and accountability. But the shadows of his past still linger. His story is a complex mix of privilege, pain, missteps, and growth. Colton's transformation from closeted reality TV star to out gay man wasn't smooth or universally celebrated, but it was real and messy and public. And in that messiness lies a hard truth. Coming out doesn't erase the past. It challenges you to own it. Drop a 3 if you believe redemption has to be earned, not rushed. Ricky Martin, trapped by perfection, freed by truth. In the late 90s, Ricky Martin was everywhere. With Livin' La Vida Loca shaking the charts and his hips stealing every show, he became the face of Latin pop's global explosion. Women screamed, cameras followed, and Ricky played the part of the suave heartthrob with effortless charm. But behind the perfect smile was a truth he couldn't say out loud, and it was eating him alive. For years, the world speculated. Every interview circled the same question. Is Ricky Martin gay? Tabloids made it a circus, dissecting his every move. But Ricky remained silent. When you're living in denial, the last thing you want is confrontation, he later admitted. The pressure to maintain a carefully crafted public image, especially in the conservative world of Latin American entertainment, was suffocating. Then came the tipping point. In 2010, after years of speculation and hiding, Ricky Martin posted a simple, heartfelt message to his website. "I am proud to say that I am a fortunate homosexual man." And just like that, the illusion shattered, but not the man. For the first time in his career, Ricky stood fully in the light. But that was only the beginning. The real scandal didn't come until years later. In 2022, a deeply disturbing allegation emerged. Ricky was accused of sexual misconduct by a family member. The media frenzy was instant. For a moment, it felt like decades of authenticity and advocacy were about to unravel. But within weeks, the case collapsed. The accusation was withdrawn, the charges dismissed, and Ricky Martin walked out with his head held high, but shaken. "It was devastating," he said in an interview, "but I had to fight back with truth." The moment became a turning point, not just in clearing his name, but in revealing how quickly even the most beloved queer icons can be vilified. Today, Ricky Martin is a father, an activist, and a global symbol of queer resilience. He's used his platform to support LGBTQ+ rights, fight human trafficking, and redefine what it means to be a gay man in the spotlight, one who is proud, tender, and unapologetically strong. His story proves that coming out doesn't end the struggle. It begins it. And even when the world tries to drag you down, truth, dignity, and courage will always rise. Drop a 5 if you believe Ricky Martin is the definition of grace under fire and a true icon who never let the world break him. George Michael. From tabloid scandal to queer icon. By the late 80s, George Michael was already a global superstar. With his velvety voice, stunning looks, and chart-topping hits like Faith and Careless Whisper, he wasn't just a pop idol, he was the pop idol. But behind the fame, George lived a double life. Publicly closeted and constantly hounded by the media, he fought a quiet, painful battle with identity in an era where being openly gay could kill a career. Then in 1998, everything exploded. George was arrested in Beverly Hills for lewd conduct in a public restroom, a scandal that immediately splashed across headlines worldwide. The once polished heartthrob was suddenly the target of tabloid ridicule, late-night talk show jokes, and moral outrage. The media tore him apart, treating the incident like a punchline instead of the deeply human moment it was. A closeted man, desperate to be seen, caught in the crossfire of shame and surveillance. But what happened next changed everything. Instead of retreating in embarrassment, George Michael leaned in. In a now iconic interview, he confirmed he was gay, and he did it on his own terms. "I have no problem with people knowing I'm in a relationship with a man right now," he said defiantly. He followed that up with the satirical music video for Outside, mocking the police sting operation that outed him. In one bold move, he took back control of his narrative and queered it completely. Still, the media never fully let him breathe. George continued to face scrutiny over his personal life, substance use, and health. with every mistake magnified under a cruel spotlight. Yet through it all, he remained fiercely authentic, donating millions to AIDS charities, advocating for LGBTQ+ rights, and writing some of the most heartfelt songs of his generation. His transformation wasn't about reinvention, it was about reclamation. George Michael didn't become someone new. He simply stopped hiding. And in doing so, he gave courage to millions of queer people navigating shame, secrecy, and self-worth. When George passed away in 2016, tributes poured in from every corner of the globe. He was remembered not just as a musical genius, but as a man who rose from scandal to become one of the fiercest, proudest queer voices in pop culture. Drop a 4 if you think George Michael turned scandal into strength and inspired a generation in the process. Fame always comes with a price, but for LGBTQ+ celebrities, the cost is often tenfold. These stories weren't just about scandal. They were about survival, reinvention, and rising from the ashes when the world tried to write them off. From headlines meant to humiliate to whispers meant to erase, these stars proved that the truth, lived loudly and unapologetically, is the most powerful comeback of all. So the next time someone says, "It's just gossip," remember, behind every tabloid is a human story, one of pain, pressure, but also power. These 5 didn't just survive the scandals, they flipped the script. Drop A if you believe resilience is the new revenge. And don't forget to subscribe to Rainbow Spotlight, where queer history isn't erased, it's celebrated.